Hmm. We're streaming. Let me see if I can get in. Something's going on here. There we go. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 10-Minute Trades Trade Room. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the trading director at 10-Minute Trades. Please remember that all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so trade carefully, please. All right, I am not going to be trading the gold open this morning because CPI is a major important report. And it is distracting to do so many things so many minutes apart. If I didn't have to set things up, I would probably consider it. Just let me show you what happened last month. Last month was a very, very strange behavior on this report. So I do want to welcome everybody that's watching us on YouTube. So thank you for joining us. If you hit the like button, that would be great. So last month's CPI, it triggered early. Look at that. Um, it acted as if the news came out almost 6 seconds early. I don't know if everybody remembers that. It was very, very, very strange. I canceled my ES trade, which was the right thing to do. And I should have canceled the NQ range trade, but it didn't matter. I didn't get filled anyway. It was a very, very strange behavior on the report. No, there's just no denying how weird it was. It's pretty unusual. I mean, that's very unusual behavior. Um, let me just see one thing here. I believe the gold open was very difficult last month also. Let me see if I can find that video. It's not that there's not going to be a move on the gold open. It's just that I don't want to be distracted by it. Last month, let me see if I have the video, if my video shows the gold open from last month. Yes, this should. If I remember correctly, the gold open had very difficult signals. So we were looking at it on this chart, and I could be wrong. I'm not positive. I might have been thinking about another month, a different month. Maybe I'm wrong because this is not the month I was thinking of. No, it wasn't the month I was thinking of. So in July, before CPI, it was not a fast signal like we usually see. Most mornings we get pretty fast signals. In fact, it was pretty slow. And that is not 100% because of CPI or not because of CPI. So it was a slow response in terms of signals last month. So I think I wound up not trading it. So it was more than 2 minutes. Yeah, I didn't trade it. And that doesn't mean that's what it's going to do this month. So we know one of the issues. So when I remember last month at Langford for you, I remember the NQ went crazy and you had a giant trade. That made absolutely no sense whatsoever. That much I remember. So we've done a lot of research. This is really the first report that I haven't been able to physically test with replay. The reactions to the report are so dramatic that replay, I can't get replay to work. Yeah, last month the NQ had a 1,000. Let's look at the DMM. Hold on. I can't put my trade room on that monitor. So once again, I do want to thank everyone who's watching us on YouTube. If you'd hit that like button, that would be really nice. So the range trade for the NQ, I would probably even consider a 65 tick stop. And the range trade, which I'm not trading, I'm trading an ES breakout this morning. I'm going for a relatively traditional trade this morning, but I'm using a big bracket. I'm going to use a big bracket on the ES. So if you're going to trade the NQ, first what I'm going to do is set up my ES trade. So I'm going to use a variation on this, So strategies, I'm trading a breakout and my entry is 829. $58. And my bracket is 18. I'm going to trade two positions. And my first target is 15. My second target is 50. And I don't really, I'm not sure what size targets are going to get hit. Just don't know. We really don't know. My stop is 20. And I'm going to just do one trade. I'm going to manage that trade. If I get an opportunity to move my stop into a safe area, I will, but I want to do things mostly manually this morning because I expect the movement to be fast. So 829.58, I'm using a big bracket of 18, one target of 15 ticks, one target of 50, and my stop is 20. And then I'm making sure my warnings are off. I'm choosing my account. I'm going to label the trade ES breakout. In fact, I'll say breakout first. And I will save that template. CPI ES breakout. Apply it and okay it. And actually, I'm also going to look at my brackets. I want to see my brackets. So before I set up completely, I'm going to put my charts back on sim. I'm going to put my time on 0. I just want to see the spacing on my brackets. That's all. A little bit big. Okay. So my ES trade is set up. 829.58 on my entry, an 18 tick bracket. One position for 15 ticks, one position for 50, a stop of 20. Okay. Very traditional ES breakout trade. Let me record this. So I'll repeat that one more time for the video. So the ES is a breakout trade. 829.58 entry. 18 on the bracket. Position 1 is a 1 for 15 tick profit. Position 2 is 1 contract for 50 tick profit. A stop of 20. And I'm labeling it. And that's my trade. I'm just trading one trade. And the ES responds pretty fast on this report also. Now, if you want to trade the NQ or the ES, you can use a range trade. And both of them test very nicely for the range trade. The real only difference in the range trade, obviously you have stop differences, is the ticks above and below. With the NQ, when you set up a range trade, you have a range start time, okay? And the range start time is 829.59. Now, if you're going to trade a bracket on the NQ, it's impossible to test. We couldn't test it. If I were going to do it, I'd use a 50 tick bracket like we used on, I forget what trade we traded a 50 tick bracket a couple of trades ago. It might have been FOMC. The breakout ES is at 829. Oh, no, it was the jobs report. Right. Thank you, Eva. Thank you. 829.58 is my breakout entries. So in case there's an early move, maybe we'll catch it. The range trade, the start time is 829.59. The NQ is 10 ticks above the range, 10 ticks below the range. Now, if you're doing the ES, the ES is 6 ticks above and 6 ticks below, okay? It's been updated slightly. 6 ticks below, 6 ticks above if you do the ES. And then don't forget, show your range graphics. Okay. The range start time is 8:29:59, and then the end time of the range, which is the same as a breakout activate or entry time, it shares the input. It's 8:30:06. 8:30:06. Now, the issue with the NQ is we've had a trade that you need a 75 tick stop. So you can use that stop, right? If you want to trade the NQ. If you trade two contracts and you use a 75 tick stop, it's not totally outrageous. What's 7 times 5? 35. It's about a $400 stop per contract. So that's the question. We've been using 55.60. One trade out of the last 5 or 6 possibly would have stopped. Okay. So it's up to you how big a stop you want to use. And then targets on the NQ. So if you're using that big of a stop and you want to, manage your risk, so you could have a first target of 20 and a second target. I mean, it moved 1,000 ticks last trade. It was a very unusual trade last month. I don't think you can go on that trade as anything other than an anomaly. But we know the NQ moves pretty big. So you could use a 100 or 150 tick target. Just be prepared to move your stop if your first target gets hit, right? So let's say you choose a 120 tick target, for instance. Just be prepared. Manage the trade. I wouldn't recommend on this report today to trade multiple instruments because it's challenging. It's a fast moving report. It's going to be challenging. So the NQ is an 8:29:59 start of the range, 10 ticks above, 10 ticks below. The ES, same thing, except you change ticks above and below to 6. And then the ES, your targets are different. I'd use 10 to 15 on my first profit target, and I would consider putting 50 on the second, being prepared to manage out of the trade. It's hard to say that we'll have an anomaly again and get those gigantic moves like we had last month. And then the stop on the ES between 15 and 20. So I'm actually setting up an NQ trade. I'm not enabling it. But if there were some type of emergency and for some reason I couldn't trade the ES, I have a second trade set up so that, maybe I don't anticipate it, to be honest. It's a range trade. So one more time, 8:29:59 and 8:30:06 is the end of the range. Targets of 20 and 120. And a stop 75. Okay, but I'm not going to enable the trade because I don't want to see the range, etc. Now I'm just curious if we can see gold. I made an extra chart this morning. I don't think I'm going to make it though. Hmm. Okay, there's my gold chart. So I'm not trading it. I'm just watching the open. Just watching it. So we missed, it's 8:20 already. Okay. So like I said, I was not going to trade. This is such huge news, such a big news report. You're going to, if you're, you'll have a very big gold trade after the news also. Sometimes before a large news report, you get kind of a muted reaction in gold, like we're seeing right now. All right, so I want to go back to our CPI trade. I'm going to check my time sync. All right. So once again, I want to thank everyone watching on YouTube. We'd love it if you hit that like button for us. And I'm going to go to the website time.is to see if my computer is in sync. And it is. Okay, so anybody have any questions about the setups? The ES, I'm trading a breakout. I'm entering at 829.58. I'm using a stop of 20. And I'm using a target of 20 and 50. I don't really expect that target to get hit. The 50, not initially. Okay. So I'll try to manage my stop and get it into safety if I get the opportunity. Now I have my news results open to the side. There's a lot of elements that make up this report, or a moderate amount of elements. So I've got my news open to the side, okay? So the question is inflation a lot lower over the past month? I think it is. I think it is. The price of gas is significantly lower. Okay. Um, one of the problems that we're always dealing with is corporations. They don't help us. They're looking for profits. They gouge us all the time. So even though inflation is down, have they lowered some of their prices that they should be lowering? A lot of times, no, because they're corporations. And, we're living in a time where the corporations control the world, it seems, and they kind of do what they want. And yes, energy, the way they calculate the CPI is going to determine whether or not, right, I was thinking the exact same thing. Food prices are high. Food prices are high. So it's a tough call. There are elements in our lives where the prices have managed to come down, and then there's other areas where prices have not come down. Yes, so yeah. So from our standpoint, all the talking heads probably are saying it's lower, everything's lower. So if it's just a little bit off, it might be construed as bad news, right? If it's just a little bit off. You remember what sometimes happens. Sometimes when you're expecting, and this happens a lot on the FOMC, I'm not trading it, Lawrence. I don't have it enabled. It's not enabled. It's just a backup emergency. If the check mark is not checked, Lawrence, then the trade isn't alive. It's not live. If you're asking me, did I set up an NQ trade? It's the same trade that's on the DMM. The NQ is a range of 829.59 for the start of the range, and the end of the range is 830.06. 10 ticks above and below the range, a 75 tick stop, and targets 20 to 100, depending on how many contracts you trade. Now, what's kind of interesting, the markets are, they're a little bit up on the day. It would be nice to have a good report and have the markets positive. Negative, people losing money, etc., casts a pall on the end of the summer. It would be nice to have a couple of good reports this week. It's definitely hard to know. I mean, I know when I go out and have breakfast and I'm ordering like a couple of orders of home fries and one order of French toast, and it's like $27. I'm thinking to myself, I may wind up starving soon. I was a little bit surprised at my breakfast bill the other day. So, and this report has a bearing on, what the Fed is going to do at the next meeting, at their next interest rate meeting. Now, look at the NQ. So, it's hard to say that you should trade, right? That that what kind of behavior is that? What kind of behavior is that? Um, you want to be extremely careful this morning. You may not want to trade. Okay. Now my bracket is quite big on the ES. That was pretty strange volatility. Pretty strange volatility. It's definitely trade this morning at your own risk. It's high risk this morning. So, we had a couple of minutes of quiet. The market was quiet for a while. So my finger is on the cancel. Okay. If something weird happens, I can just uncheck the check and not trade. Okay. No fill. So I had no fill. I had no fill. I wonder if anybody else had a fill on the ES. I wonder if anybody else had a fill on the ES. Mark, did you have a fill? Well, did you trade a breakout? So I don't want to chase it. I don't want to chase it. Don't want to chase it. So I had no fill. So I'm gonna just go with it. The numbers are down. The numbers are down. Okay. The inflation numbers. Not gigantic down, to be honest. Not gigantic. So my ES, I'm not surprised that I didn't. I'm wondering, did anyone else trade the full size ES with my bracket, with a bracket of 18, with an entry time of 58? I'm just curious if I'm the only one that didn't get filled. Right. MES, you can't compare them. It's apples and oranges, unfortunately. It's not the same. So the news is good. News is good. And, one of my concerns was Dutchy no fill either. So look, it's not that there's anything wrong with anything we did. Sometimes when you get a market moving that fast, that's what happens. Okay, so just understand it happens. If you got filled, you might have gotten filled at the very tip top of the candle also. Now the news is good. It looks like the news is good. It's a little late for me. It's too late to chase. I'm not gonna chase it. I'm not gonna chase it and take a long. Okay. But there is maybe another alternative going forward in how to trade this trade. And you could do it manually with one contract. You could watch the range. You could watch the range. In other words, here's something to think about. It's nobody's fault if you don't get filled. So don't feel bad. It happens. It happens. But what you could do is, so I'm putting my charts on sim. I don't want to show you something and be live and lose a fortune of money. So I just have to put my charts on sim. I want to show you something. So if you really think there's a possibility you're not going to get filled, you can have a range set up. And if the price goes through the range, you can manually enter. So in other words, I'm going to look at my strategy on that chart. So if I had a range on that chart that ended at 830.06, right? It ends at 830.06 and it started at 829.59. Okay. This is something to think about, maybe because this report is having such speed. Okay. Now the ES, and I'm doing this on the ES, so our ticks above was 6, our ticks below was 6, above and below the range. Stop is 20, targets are fine. So the bracket doesn't matter. So our range starts at 829.59 and then it enters at 830.06 in theory. So here's a thought. And I just wanted to make sure my charts, like I said, I don't want to be put into a trade by accident. Excuse me. So if I put, now unfortunately, because of the times being off, it's not real. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show you the way that I want to show you this concept because the time has already passed. So the orders are going to show up immediately. That's the problem. So let me see if I can possibly explain it. But what you're going to do is instead of waiting for everything to happen manually, you set up the range. Or in other words, instead of trying to get filled automatically, you set up the range, and then when price goes through the upper or lower portion of the range, you can enter the trade. Especially if it's 06, right? The idea is if it's 06, but if you have a giant move that isn't going to fill, then it shoots through the range. Let me enable it. I don't think it's going to show it exactly the way I want to. Let me get rid of my NQ so I don't accidentally trigger a live trade. So no, see, it won't work the way I want to show you. I'd have to do it on replay, but we want to look at our other setups this morning. So I'll have to explain it in a webinar or when we go through a replay of it. The idea is as the price is going up, as you see it go through the range, you have your orders and your stops in place, so you can use a button to enter instead of waiting for the time. So in other words, we wouldn't use a time-based range. We would do everything the same, but we would use, let's say, a market open setup that everybody's used to. With a market open setup, what you have is a button that will let you enter the trade. So as it goes through, you'll see the range getting drawn because the market open trade draws the range. Then, as you see the price go through the range, you click the instant long button. That way, your software is going to protect you by using stops and targets. Now, it's a very fast move, so there's going to be slippage on the entry, but very possibly you might have been able to go in somewhere, in this area on the candle rather than not getting filled because of such a fast move. So I do want to thank everybody watching us on YouTube. Some mornings you just don't get filled if it's a very fast move. So it is what it is. I want to thank you for watching us on YouTube and sign up for the channel so you know when we're streaming next time or coming to our trade room. And thanks for watching. Hit the like button on your way out. And I want to thank everybody for watching us on YouTube. So Chantal, thanks on the stream.